Today, my cousin had nothing to do, so he started cleaning up his computer. Yeah, because cleaning his office is my job anyway. Anyway, he found some old trash that will probably inspire him to make new minigames for the game. For example, this is a game where you can program other games. I can't believe he spent all that time making something like this that no one would ever want to play. These are games he hadn't opened in years. He had actually abandoned them because whenever he tried to run them, there was a display issue. Basically, only half of the game was visible. So my cousin thought that was the end for those games. But today we have ChatGPT. So I suggested he explain the problem to the app, and it immediately found a solution. Turns out it's just a Java setting. You open the properties of the java.exe file and disable the DPI scaling option. This game, called Adapter 260, is as complicated as it is useless. My cousin spent hours explaining everything you can do with it, but basically it's only good for making his usual trash games in the most inefficient way possible. When you enter this game, you only see the tip of the iceberg of his madness. From the main screen, you can go left to program. In reality, you don't program anything there because you have to write the code in Notepad. That part just acts as an operating system. This part is even crazier. Think about this. My cousin didn't create the game in Unity. He created a language in Unity called Adapter. With this homemade language, he built the rest of the game. Now imagine there's a bug. He would first have to spend hours checking if the bug was in the code written in Notepad, because of course there's no proper debugging system. And if the bug wasn't there, then he'd have to dig into the language's code itself to see if the issue was there. And this is just the beginning of the layered madness I'm showing you today. This 3D file browser with terrible artistic taste is one of those examples. Basically, instead of opening files in Windows or directly in the base 2D game, the user is supposed to launch this app from the 2D browser and then open the files in the 3D browser. Of course, the 3D browser itself is made in Adapter. So if a file doesn't open, there are already 4 different places where the bug could be messing with the poor, unsuspecting, and slightly insane user of this monstrosity. In these browsers, there are also other subprograms to open different types of files, like sounds and sprites for the games. I won't even bother showing those. On top of this already massive amount of useless work, there's also the main game part, again made in Adapter, again written in Notepad, again full of impossible to find bugs, where my cousin decided to manage an open world with a city made of over 100 sectors. The result is that neither the game nor the browser are humanly understandable to anyone who isn't my cousin. But this is nothing. When my cousin started the project, he looked at the available options. Back then, there were Unity and Unreal Engine. He misunderstood the information and thought they were paid. So, like the cheap boss he is, he decided to save money and build his own engine. The problem is, he didn't account for the time it would take. He found some guy on YouTube who showed him how to build an engine in Java. So as you can see, this old version of the engine is in Java. After years of working on it, he discovered that Unity had always been free. So, after a mistake like that, any normal person would have just taken Unity and started making games like everyone else does. But not him. He's my cousin, and also my boss. He took the engine code in Java and rewrote it in Unity. And that's where the whole mess started. Only to realize, years and years later, that it would have been way easier to just make the game directly in Unity in the first place. Anyway, here we can see the documentation my cousin wrote for the engine. This is one of the last projects developed for my cousin's homemade engine. It's a terminal that was part of one of the early versions of XPcade. My cousin also made a tutorial and uploaded it on his website. But then he ran out of money to keep the site running, and today someone else bought the domain and turned it into an online casino. So the slightly more interesting part of the whole thing is probably lost forever. This game is pretty interesting. I think my cousin will probably pick this one to add as an arcade machine in his garage. I'd like to give you an idea of how my cousin used to work on the terminal. Right now, he doesn't even remember how to open the whole project anymore. But I opened Eclipse with a file just to show you what his development environment looked like back then. At the beginning, the chaos level was off the charts. We had a free engine grabbed from YouTube, whose reliability was questionable at best. On top of that, there was the terminal program, which was supposed to act like a sort of operating system. Inside the terminal, games were implemented in adapters. So whenever something didn't work as expected, my cousin had to debug step by step. First, check the code written in Notepad inside the adapter, then move on to a possible bug in the terminal itself, then to a possible error in the homemade free engine. And finally, when he bought a new computer, the program just stopped working altogether, due to that Java bug I showed you at the beginning, which my cousin only managed to figure out today. To wrap things up, I'll show you a carrot farming simulator my cousin made in the adapter.